Lawmakers grill a top defense official for the first time in over 2 decades. Activists call for an overhaul of police training after an officer is found guilty of excessive violence. Chip giant TSMC's new factory gets the environmental stamp of approval, but are there enough resources to go around? Plus, we meet the hearing-impaired dancing troupe who use vibrations to help them move to the beat. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Kavat. The Chief of the General Staff of Taiwan's Armed Forces, Mei Jiashu, has said he wants this year's largest military exercises to be as realistic as possible, part of preparing Taiwan to be ready for war. Mei was being questioned by lawmakers, the first time a military chief of staff has appeared at the legislature in 25 years. Louise Watt is live for us in Taipei. Louise, what exactly has Mei said?
He's basically signalled a fundamental shift in the way the military will work, empowering troops on the ground to make decisions rather than waiting for commands from those further up the chain. Now, he was talking about this year's Han Kuang exercises. They're Taiwan's largest war games, and they're about getting the country combat ready. This year, they take place from July the 22nd to the 26th. Now, these have been going on for 40 years, but in recent years, they've come in for criticism from military watchers overseas and within Taiwan that they're too scripted, that they don't give an opportunity for troops to react as if they would in a real combat situation because they know what's going to happen. So this year, the military wants to make them more realistic. And to do that, they're going to have a decentralized command system. And they also want to focus on familiarizing units with the rules of engagement. The idea being that troops on the ground can be more flexible when responding to circumstances in front of them. Here's what Mei had to say during part of the questioning by lawmakers.
它还是会有一个中心化的指挥，这个不变。但是它会有一个指挥链一定会在啦，但是会有去中心化的行动。ROE 接战规则就要很普遍的下放到很基层的单位。
That was the Chief of the General Staff speaking to lawmakers. And actions by China have injected a dose of reality into what he's saying. Because Taiwan's defense ministry announced today that they'd spotted 26 Chinese planes near Taiwan this morning. They say that China had been carrying out a joint combat readiness patrol with warships. So a reminder there of the military threat that Taiwan faces.
Louise, there's been some controversy over Mei's appearance in the legislature. What are the concerns there?
Yes, it's highly unusual to see a chief of the general staff being questioned by lawmakers in Taiwan. In fact, the last time it happened was back in 1999. Normally, it's the defense minister who steps up for this kind of thing. So why was Mei called today? Well, the convener of the Foreign Affairs and National Defense Committee, she said that they invited Mei because the new defense minister, he's handed over some of the responsibilities for military orders and administrations to the chief of the general staff. And so he was the man that they wanted an explanation from. But as you say, Ian, it has caused some controversy, with some people thinking he shouldn't have to face questions by lawmakers and the optics aren't good. For example, Admiral Li Xingming, he's a former chief of the general staff himself. He said that the legislature concerns itself with defense policy and shouldn't be interfering with matters of military training. And he says he doesn't think Mei should be wasting his time on politics. But as for Mei himself, before going in for questioning, He said that if his evidence helps the public better understand the military and, crucially, support it, then he's all for it.
Thank you for the update, Louise. That was Louise Watt joining us live in Taipei. The appearance of the General Chief of Staff was not related to new reforms that give lawmakers the power to question people under threat of fines or prison. The legislative amendments that expand lawmakers' powers came into effect on Wednesday. The opposition-dominated legislature says they are necessary to hold the government to account. But President Lai Ching-te, his cabinet, and the top government watchdog, the Control Yuan, all say they overstep the legislature's power. They plan to challenge them in the Constitutional Court. A police officer in New Taipei has been found guilty of beating a man he'd mistaken for a suspect. It's one of several cases of police brutality that have made headlines in recent years. And as John Van Trieste reports, activists are calling for a fresh look at police training and rules of conduct.
A silent protest against police brutality. 2 years ago, this man, Mr. Huang, was mistaken for a wanted suspect. He fought back against the officer trying to arrest him and ended up with these injuries. Both Huang and the officer went to court over the fight. The New Taipei District Court found Huang innocent and sentenced the officer to 5 months for misconduct. Huang is here, still angry about what he's been through.
被打成重伤的被害人竟然还要被违法滥权的警察提告伤害，这对我来讲真的是一个人生最大的污点。
The local police force says it's staying out of the case.
根据立场就尊重司法的一个判决，这个是当事人他自行的一个决定，分局就没有再过问。
But advocates for criminal justice reform say the police shouldn't be allowed to do nothing.
远警的教育训练不足，远警在他们所有的执勤规范里面都有明确的规范，在哪个状况下该用什么样的规范，或者这个规范不足的地方是不是应该加以修正？我们认为说这部分是有问题的。
In the past few months alone, police have been accused of torturing a teenage suspect during interrogation and of beating to death a man they thought was a scooter thief. And such cases stretch back years. Last summer, police chased down and injured a central Taiwan teen they thought might be an undocumented migrant worker. And the police shooting of a Vietnamese migrant worker in 2017 has even been turned into an award-winning documentary. NGOs say Mr. Huang's case is yet another example of police brutality. And they say it's time for changes so that excessive force and torture by Taiwan's police force are stamped out. James Lin and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's new representative to the US has pushed back on accusations that he and his wife wasted taxpayer money on luxuries and were rude to his staff.
我绝对不接受对我个人跟对我太太这种人格上的这种污蔑。
Leaked foreign ministry documents supposedly show Alexander Yu spent almost $250,000 on renovations, furniture and personal items. Yu rejects the claims. Yu also says he and his wife would sometimes buy food and drinks for their staff out of their own pocket and never have been rude to them. Yu has been in his position for about 6 months after taking over from Vice President Bi-khim Hsiao. The Foreign Ministry says it has found no problems with Yu's expenditure. The Kaohsiung government approved chip giant TSMC's latest environmental impact report of the firm's new chip plant there. But given that the chipmaker already uses a lot of the area's energy, water and labour, activists and other firms there are concerned there won't be enough resources to go around. Joyce Zhang reports.
A stamp of approval for Taiwanese chip giant TSMC that its new industry-leading 2-nanometer plant in southern Taiwan meets Kaohsiung City's environmental standards. But still, several concerns remain over resource management and how the power-intensive chipmaker will meet its goal of 100% renewable energy by 2040, a full decade earlier than its original pledge.
但是目前以10年为目标，我们比较难看到，就是它在过程中比较务实的一些执行方案哦。所以我们是期待这个净零跟这个再生能源的部分可以用5年为期哦。
TSMC executive Arthur Zhang agreed that a 5-year progress report would be a good approach and says he'll bring the idea back to the company. It's been a busy time for the chipmaker as it continues to add to its already large domestic footprint, with this new Kaohsiung plant set to be the third to use the 2-nanometer process. With the new fab, TSMC alone will consume about 18% of Kaohsiung's power. But energy analysts are hopeful that because the company has joined the international RE100 pledge to go 100% renewable, there's enough pressure on it to reach that goal, and at the same time boost Taiwan's overall green energy push.
They have committed to the RE100, so they have to make it. It's the issue of their competition in the global. The administrative efficiency for the renewable energy development is not high enough. Other chip industry, they can help a lot to speed up the process.
Aside from energy concerns, Kaohsiung firms have long worried about competing with the chipmaker for other resources like water. The company's fabs in the south alone drink up 138 million liters of water a day, using it to clean the millions of silicon wafers that will go on to power the world's electronic devices. And local firms are also scrambling for talent as more workers eye better-paying jobs in chips, like at TSMC's new Kaohsiung plant, which is looking to recruit 2,500 employees. Some firms are calling for social housing programs to help convince talent to stay.
我们的人才也是不断的被中钢、台积电抢走了，所以我们一直希望说，透过这样子的方式，可以留住年轻的人才。
The pressure's on for authorities and corporate giants like TSMC to come up with new ideas to make sure there's enough to go around, and like squeezing more tech onto smaller chips to get more out of fewer resources as well. Ethan Chen and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
Performance artists often use sound cues to keep pace in a work of drama or dance. But how do deaf performers do it? Reporter Reese Ayres spent a day with a hard-of-hearing performance troupe to find out.
Moving in time to a beat they can feel, but can't hear. This performance troupe is made up entirely of actors who are deaf or hard of hearing. Their passion for theatre has helped them overcome their inability to hear or communicate verbally. Though for most, including performance artists Han Kuang, the path to the stage was long and full of obstacles.
我就问说，可不可以让我试试看？可是听人的老师怎么都会问我说，你听不到，你听不到音乐节奏怎么办？我跟他说没关系啊，我试着数节拍，我跟着我心里的节拍走就好了嘛。可是老师就说啊，你真的会遇到困难，怎么样的？
The constant fight to prove himself almost became too much for Yin.
后来就真的觉得哇，听不到真的是有许多的困难呢，就是想要探寻各样的机会都不断的碰面。其实那时候其实是有一点点难过的，然后就觉得好像我们是聋人，我们就没办法跳舞。其实当时是有点放弃这件事，我就没有再表演了。
But Yin eventually got back on his feet and found a community of hard-of-hearing performers who had learned how to dance and act despite their disability.
With varying degrees of hearing impairments, the performers use different techniques to keep in time with the music, including using light cues and by sensing vibrations through the ground.
And using their bodies instead of their voices, they tell stories about the struggles they face living in a world designed for people who can hear.
我们一直在挖掘他们所谓的信任、沟通跟隔阂这件事情，然后以及他们在社会当中遇到的恐惧的障碍，如何去突破，这样，然后一一的在这个几个作品当中去呈现。
There are over 120,000 deaf or hard-of-hearing people in Taiwan, but few opportunities for them in the performing arts. A problem artistic director Wang Heng says hard-of-hearing people face from a young age.
因为在教育里面，他们接触艺术的，尤其是表演艺术，然后剧场，其实有一点少。那所以我们要怎么从零开始，然后一步一步带他们进到这个很专业的一个领域。
A lifetime in the wings left many hard-of-hearing performers feeling isolated and impacted their ability to form relationships with the hearing community.
因此我们要一起共创一个表演的时候，他们没有办法有足够对我们一般人听人有一个信任感，然后这个信任感需要透过很多的 workshop， 以及田野调查，以及跟他们 talk 聊天，然后甚至还要私下的就是去做一些心理的咨询，他们才可能够渐渐的打开说，哦，原来你真的是关心我们的聋人文化。
Building that trust allowed for the creation of a collaborative, ever-evolving performance piece, combining elements of dance and drama that tells inspirational stories about overcoming adversity.
然后不管是你是盲人，或者是聋人，甚至是各样身心障碍的人，其实你应该要跨出去，去不断的接触，然后借由生活的感受，跟不同的人接触和交流，使我们自己能够先被开阔视野，同时间也能够打开心胸，这样子我们就不会觉得好像都封闭在自己的世界里面。
This troupe plans to take their performances and workshops south to the rest of the country, giving more hard of hearing people the chance to see that a career in the performing arts is well within reach. Devon Tai and Rhys Ayres in Taoyuan for TaiwanPlus.
Stay tuned to Taiwan Plus. Coming up after the break, could Taiwan benefit from rocky ties between India and China? Find out when we return.
Rediscover your passion for classical, jazz, and a cappella music with the exceptional talent of Taiwanese musicians. Resound, every Wednesday, 8:15 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. A UN-backed contingent of Kenyan police officers has arrived in gang-controlled Haiti. The controversial mission follows months of debate on how to restore peace to the Caribbean nation, which has a long record of failed foreign interventions. Harel Hughes reports.
Waving a Kenyan flag and with guns in hand, 400 police officers take their first steps into Haiti's capital city, Port-au-Prince. They've been sent from the East African nation, part of a long-awaited UN-backed mission to take on the powerful gangs that have taken over Haiti. The mission faced months of delays, and deadly protests in Nairobi have cast doubt on the deployment. But their arrival is a welcome sight for Haiti's leaders.
Et finalement, matin, nous voyons que force internationale est là pour venir accompagner nous et supporter force police nous. Nous allons commencer à travailler petit pour nous reprendre le pays nous.
Deadly violence in Haiti has hit a record high. The UN says more than 2,500 people were killed or injured by gang violence in the first 3 months of the year, and more than 500,000 people have been displaced. In April, then Prime Minister Ariel Henry was forced to resign, and a 9-member transitional council was sworn in. For Haitians facing the widespread violence, they have mixed views of foreign police officers arriving in their country.
Force là doit arriver et puis force là doit arriver sans interruption. Les forces là doit arriver sans interruption. Ça veut dire c'est pour force là gagner dans tout le pays pour mettre l'ordre pour peuple haïtien capable de gagner une liberté.
Moi même pas trop parce que nous venons si pas tromper nous pas 4 ans à souffrir. Si l'État paye, l'État fait un bagage, il va en faire.
C'est pas blanc qui fait pour nous, c'est nous qui faisons. Mais quand même, c'est une solution parce que nous ne pouvons pas marcher dans le pays, nous ne pouvons pas aller aucun côté, nous ne pouvons pas être zone de l'endroit dans le pays.
This is only the first group of foreign officers in Haiti. Kenya has pledged to send a total of 1,000, and 9 other countries offered to join the multinational mission. Haitians are apprehensive. Previous foreign interventions resulted in a devastating cholera outbreak and a sexual abuse scandal. But many are desperate for the violence to end. Gang leaders have vowed to join forces against the foreign presence, which means hopes for peace may still be a long way off. Patrick Chen and Harel Hughes for TaiwanPlus.
WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has left Saipan's court as a free man. Assange signed a plea bargain with the United States, ending a 14-year legal battle. He pleaded guilty to one charge of espionage instead of the 18 he originally faced for leaking secret military information. His final court hearing was in the U.S. territory of the Northern Mariana Islands. He's now due to fly home to Australia. Assange's lawyers spoke outside the courthouse, condemning the U.S. for charging Assange under its espionage law.
Mr. Assange revealed truthful, important, and newsworthy information, including revealing that the United States had committed war crimes, and he has suffered tremendously in his fight for free speech, for freedom of the press, and to ensure that the American public and the world community gets truthful and important, newsworthy information.
India and China's relationship is on the rocks, a situation that could be beneficial to India's informal ties with Taiwan. To find out more, Sally Jensen spoke with Jayadeva Ranade, a member of India's National Security Advisory Board and president of the Center for China Analysis and Strategy in New Delhi.
Can you tell us how India's relationship to China has changed in the last 10 years under Narendra Modi?
You know, Modi seemed to have had a good impression about China, good relationship with China when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. And when he came here also, as I said, he reached out 4 or 5 times. I mean, he's met Xi Jinping 40 times. They've had a series of meetings. Nothing's happened. I think we need to look at China's policies. They're very aggressive policies. Again, they coincide with Xi Jinping's taking over. 2013, they've taken a decision that the most important thing for them is to effect the rejuvenation of what they call the Great Chinese Nation, which is the recovery of territories. And then there were the clashes at Galwan, where lives were lost on both sides. And I think after that, all the people who still thought the Chinese are good guys and we can have a relationship with them, I think the scales fell off the eyes. And it was very clear in India that, we can't trust them. So today we're at a stage where, frankly, there is no trust.
And what are the chances of seeing a repeat or perhaps a resurgence of violence on the India-China border?
I think it's high, frankly. I don't know how large it will be, how widespread. I expect there will be short and localized, maybe, conflicts or clashes. So it can happen anywhere. You can't pinpoint that it will only happen in the Ladakh sector or the central sector. But this time, if something happens, there will be a strong reaction from India. It will not be, the first effort will not be to try and say, okay, doesn't matter if you come up to here, we'll talk and get you back. I don't think the army is in the mood for that. There will be a clash. And I think the Chinese side probably realizes that.
And as a result of this chill, could you tell us perhaps how India's relationship to Taiwan has changed?
I think there has been a change. I mean, we've been slow to, on both sides, I would say, to get going. Taiwan has been keen on establishing ties with us. Trade will be a big factor. And I am hoping that more Taiwanese companies come here to do business. The chip manufacturing, the fabs, etc., is one big area where we can go ahead. Then some manufacturing sectors have opened up, Taiwanese have come in. So I think that's one direction. The second, I would say, is if we have more people-to-people contact, that will break things down. And there are certain areas where there is a cooperation between Taiwan and India also taking place.
That was Jayadeva Ranade, president of India's Center for China Analysis and Strategy, speaking to our reporter Sally Jensen. You can watch the full interview on Zoom In, Zoom Out. New footage has emerged showing the moment lithium batteries ignited in a South Korean factory, starting a fire that killed 23 people. Workers can be seen trying to contain the fire before the warehouse filled with smoke. Most of the fire's victims were foreign workers, including 1 Laotian and 18 Chinese nationals. The battery company's CEO says the factory complied with safety precautions. He has issued an apology and promised to investigate the cause of the explosion.
회사는 이번 사태의 수습을 위해 최선을 다할 것이고 엄중한 책임감으로 임할 것입니다. 아울러 관계 당국의 조사에 성실히 임할 예정이며 사고의 정확한 원인 규명 및 재발 방지 등 후속 조치를 위해 모든 노력을 다할 것입니다.
China's premier has hit back at concerns over his country's green technology exports. Speaking at the World Economic Forum, Li Qiang called for countries not to disengage from Chinese industries. Li also responded to accusations that Chinese firms benefit from unfair subsidies, saying their advancement in green technology is due to early investment. Beijing is facing EU and US tariffs on its electric vehicles and other exports over concerns it will flood Western markets with cheap products. 2 Taiwanese golfers are headed to Paris after securing a spot in the women's golf event at the Olympics. Chen Peiyun and Xu Weiling ranked high enough globally to land a slot in the lineup, beating out competitors to take the country's only 2 spots. Paris 2024 will be Chen's first and Xu's second Olympic Games. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Finally, we leave you with some highlights from Paris Fashion Week. I'm Kavat. Take care. See you next time.